Good afternoon, everybody. This is Scott Palmer with the Builders and Remodelers Association of Greater Boston. Welcome to our webinar today, May 29th. Seems like March 29th, but that's just me. I would like to welcome you all. You're all on mute right now. If you have any questions about the event or to our presenter, I suggest you use chat, but at the end of the presentation, we will open up the phones for questions. And this event is being recorded and will be posted on our website once I put it up on YouTube. Today's presentation is by Abby Massaro. She's the environmental specialist for the Center for Ecotechnology, and she'll be talking about RecyclingWorks in Massachusetts, construction and demolition best management practices. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Abby, and she can give it a go. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Let me just get this going here. Make sure everyone can see my screen.
Looks good.
All right. So I mentioned to Scott earlier, I am currently sitting in our Eco Building Bargain store in Springfield, Massachusetts. I thought it was going to be a quiet day today at the store, but there is some background hammering and shopping going on around me. So I apologize for some of that background noise, but it really shouldn't be too interruptive. But so thanks for joining today, everyone. I'm happy to be here and review this presentation with you all. A little bit about me. I have a background in waste management and construction, and now with the Center for Ecotechnology. And we're here to review some of the best management practices for construction and demolition materials. Before we get started, I do want to ask a couple questions to the crowd throughout the presentation. So we're going to be using the chat box, which looks like a little bubble to the right hand of the screen. So if you click that, then you're able to enter a message at the bottom right. So before we get started, what kind of projects do folks work on? So whether it be commercial, residential. There you go, Scott just sent a chat out. So yeah, what kind of projects do you folks work on? Commercial, residential? If you want, you can mention the scale. Where? Are you mainly in the Boston area, or do you travel outside of Massachusetts, maybe New Hampshire, Rhode Island? Both commercial and residential. Great. Low-rise residential, new construction and renovation in the Boston area. Thanks, Kevin. So it looks like we have a good mix out there. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Make sure that I can go to the next slide here. Okay, so a little bit about RecyclingWorks in general. So this presentation is brought to you by RecyclingWorks in Massachusetts, and RecyclingWorks is a program that's entirely funded by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, and it's administered by the Center for Ecotechnology. So like I mentioned, the Center for Ecotechnology is actually located in Northampton, Massachusetts, and that's who I work for. We also own and operate Eco Building Bargains in Springfield, Mass. But the RecyclingWorks program is across Massachusetts. We provide free assistance to businesses and institutions in Mass. We help businesses divert material from disposal, and that can be from improving regular recycling in offices or hospitals and things like that, to starting food scrap collection, and also to assistance with special materials like construction and demolition. We have a website that has a lot of helpful resources, and this is a little snapshot of the backbone of our website. It's our Find the Recycler tool. So on our website, there's this searchable database, and you can input the material that you're looking for. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you input a material, enter your location, and whether you want that material picked up and dropped off, and you can click search. So this database includes haulers and processors of C&D materials, including mixed construction and demolition dumpsters to specific materials like asphalt, brick, and concrete, asphalt shingles, reusable building materials, carpet, ceiling tiles, gypsum, vinyl, porcelain toilets, to name a few. You can look it up in this database. You can use the Find a Recycler tool to find recycling and reuse outlets. So if you can't find what you're looking for on this database, we also have a hotline you can call that is staffed with real people, my colleagues. And you can email or call the hotline and talk to somebody live about, some material that you've come across that you need an outlet for. So before we actually dive into the content of the BMP, it's helpful to understand how it was created. RecyclingWorks developed the BMP throughout 2016 and 2017, and its objective is to increase recycling and reuse of C&D materials by documenting and sharing on what organizations engaged in the field on the practices that they actually used. So we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel in any way. We engaged Massachusetts professionals across the industry, including contractors, waste haulers, C&D processors, architects, reuse outlets, and building inspectors. The BMP is posted on the RecyclingWorks website, and it's updated as new information becomes available. We just recently made a small update when the EPA shared a document on deconstruction in 2018 area. And we will definitely make an update when LEED version 4.1 is published officially. So the whole point of the BMP process was not to reinvent the wheel. We got input from real organizations, real people in the field on practices that they actually use. So a little bit about the outline. That it covers background information on regulatory requirements and focuses on the how-to information about finding reuse and recycling outlets. Before we go to the next slide, I'm going to go to the chat box. I think this is my last chat, but I'd love to engage you guys in this one question. The Massachusetts DEP has a number of waste bans. These are regulations that ban certain materials from being disposed of, aka you can't put them in the trash. Does anyone know any of the common materials that you might find at a construction site that are banned from disposal? You're not being graded, so you can go ahead and throw out some answers in the chat. What do you think are some materials on a construction site that are banned from disposal that you might find? Asbestos, insulation, that's great. Asbestos is a big one. All right, and for those of you, I'm not going to take up too much time. I know participating is sometimes challenging, but here is a full or part of a list. These are the most common items found on a construction site that are banned from disposal. So asphalt, brick, and concrete, ferrous and non-ferrous metals. There's high value in metals, so we definitely want to make sure we're recycling that. Treated and untreated wood is banned from landfills only. It can be sent to burn facilities or waste to energy facilities. Clean gypsum wallboard, recyclable paper, cardboard, and paperboard. So some waste bans like cardboard have been in place since the 1990s, and that's not just only on construction sites, but also in your office, at your home, things of that nature. We want to make sure we're recycling those items like cardboard and paper. Items that the state has banned from disposal must be diverted, so must be sent to a recycling facility of some kind. Materials on this list have markets for recycling. So if you place in a mixed C&D dumpster, it's sent to a sorting facility and then sorted out and sent to recycling markets. So similar to that, if you picture a single stream facility, those materials like plastic and cardboard get sorted out, baled, and sent out. Some other materials are banned from disposal for safety reasons, and these should not be placed in a mixed C&D dumpster. These items include white goods like large appliances, CRTs or cathode ray tubes, and lead acid batteries. The generator, or in this instance, the contractor and hauler, share the responsibility for complying with these waste bans. We have a full list of all the waste bans on the BMP and on the RecyclingWorks website. Some items like leaf and yard waste, beverage containers, like I mentioned, and tires. So the BMP makes reference to the regulatory requirements for hazardous materials, but doesn't really get too much in it. It makes reference to the documents where you can find other guidance documents from like the EPA on lead, asbestos, mercury, things of that nature. So it links to relevant documents from these regulatory bodies, both the regulations themselves and also guidance documents for safely complying with these items. So now we're diving really into the BMP. This is the keystone of the BMP, and really the keystone for diverting materials from a project is developing a waste management plan. You want to make sure you're going into the project with a plan for diverting waste and identifying the materials that you will identify on a site that can be recycled. So you want to start the process early in the project so that all parties are involved, that are involved with the project, are on the same page and know where materials are going. So in the waste management plan, the contractor indicates how they'll manage each waste stream for the project. In the bid specifications for C&D waste, it's best for the architect to set the diversion goals and get them into the specifications so that the contractor and waste hauler know the expectations from the beginning. It's a good idea to require the contractor to develop a waste management plan, set the goals and materials to target. In the project specifications, we have a sample project specifications provided to RecyclingWorks by the Reuse Network, and it's all up on, it links to it on our BMP. So RecyclingWorks we're not architects or contractors, so we're not experts on developing specs, but we have been given permission by the Reuse Network to post this so you guys can go on there and look at it, see how it's set up, and definitely copy and paste some of the things that they have on there into your own plan. I'm going to stop right here. If anyone has any questions, just post in the chat, and Scott can let me know that something's been posted, or I've been checking once in a while and seeing if any questions have been posted. But I will move on to the sample waste management plan that's actually posted on our website, and it identifies the material, the procedure for handling the material, estimated quantities. The general contractor generally handles this in the waste management plan. So it's taking the vision from the specs and translating it into action plan of where each material will go. And it's a written document. This is meant to be a living written document that is shared with subcontractors, project managers, haulers, especially, that everyone can refer to, be on the same page. It's even a good idea to have contact information listed on here. If anyone has a question, they can call, the project manager, general contractor, someone else on site that will have the answers. Demolition and deconstruction. So pre-demolition cleanouts are a great idea. That's something that the owner can request, really help reduce waste that can be reused. It's a process involved with, exactly as it sounds, setting up cleanouts prior to demolition. This extracts, furniture, desks, shelving, things like that can be easily removed and donated to a reuse outlet. It's actually great timing because RecyclingWorks has just published a separate best management practice on our website, specifically on furniture and equipment reuse. So if there's an existing building, it's filled with things, including furniture. So that's why it's a great idea to have a plan and budget time for removing reusable furniture before demolition starts. So, and there are specific entities that specialize in decommissioning and furniture reuse, so you can bring them in early to get furniture out efficiently. Most conventional projects would be demolition. So that's where materials usually sent in a mixed C&D dumpster to a C&D facility. When this happens, there's some recycling, but there's very little, if anything, reused, and recycling rates can fluctuate on the facility and where the facility is and a whole bunch of different factors. With deconstruction, the recycling and reuse rate can be dramatically higher. So some projects, it might make sense to do a soft strip, which is very common, where just the valuable materials are taken out that focus on high quality finish materials like molding and cabinets and doors and fixtures can easily be extracted and donated. Some projects, it would be economically viable for a full deconstruction or a complete unbuilding, where a building is carefully deconstructed and the majority of the materials are either reused for the new project or recycled. And this can be tricky because labor costs are usually dramatically higher, but disposal costs can be reduced. Some projects may yield commodities that can be sold. So for a home with a lot of valuable items, deconstruction can have a net positive impact. So our BMP links to an example by Piece Deconstruction, where they deconstructed a residential property. And even though labor costs were about $15,000 more for deconstruction versus demolition, there was a value in the items that were deconstructed and resulted in the homeowner making $4,000 of deconstruction rather than paying $13,000 for demolition. So again, that links, you can find that link on our BMP to Piece Deconstruction. Material reuse outlets. So we're really lucky in Massachusetts to have more than a dozen nonprofit stores that focus on selling reused building materials. The customers at these stores are generally homeowners or landlords, so they're interested in materials that would be appropriate for a home. It's also a great outlet for contractors that do renovation work on home and want to buy cheaper materials or fixtures. It's also relevant for hotels, apartments, condo complexes, and other buildings that tend to have finished materials that would work in a home. So it's typically a good match for small to mid-sized projects with residential materials. So our BMP provides a list of materials in these outlets that these outlets usually accept, as well as the process for donating and working with them. Most in-demand materials include hardwood flooring, kitchen cabinets and sinks, bathroom sinks, vanities, tubs and toilets, stone or solid surfaces, countertops, residential doors, energy-efficient windows, newer appliances, lighting fixtures, rigid foam insulation, the list goes on. And if you think about throwing these items in a dumpster and how much that disposal would cost versus donating for free to one of these reuse outlets, it can be very cost efficient. And so the typical process for working with one of these outlets, you can assess in the building what items might be appropriate, contact the store to schedule a walkthrough, or you can simply text or email a photo of an item or items. Carefully remove the materials from the building intact and you store in a dry place on site, and then arrange for a pickup or drop off. This is the array of material outlets throughout Massachusetts. So we have a great distribution of nonprofit reused outlets across the state. Habitat has 11 restores, and that's in gray along the map. Each of these focus pretty much in the territory that they're in. Generally, they'll pick up items within their realm. And they can also accept, the restores can also accept furniture, whereas the Boston Building Resources and the Eco Building Bargains really focuses on used building materials like flooring and fixtures and things of that nature. Eco Building Bargains and Boston Building Resources will most likely travel outside of their network. So Eco Building Bargains might go out to Pittsfield, and Boston Building Resources might be more inclined to go out to the Cape to pick up some items. So they're willing to travel. The BMP makes reference to other reuse outlets and other outlets for materials that are removed from buildings. So things like material brokers. If you have a potential to have a large volume of materials, for example, doors or institutional furniture, you should reach out to them. I've seen this become more popular in my own community, but Facebook tag sale and Craigslist is another great opportunity to sell, even molding or fireplace inserts and things like that. For larger projects, on-site reuse can be viable. So if you extract a bunch of wood from a building, think about reusing it in the new, soon-to-be building. Architectural salvage can offer wholesale prices for some items. And wood salvage organizations are great for projects with large quantities of reclaimed wood, and deconstruction contractors that focus on wood factor in that price that they get for the wood into the bids. So C&D processors are essential for recycling C&D materials, especially in mixed containers. So this is where the majority of C&D recycling is done, which is through the C&D processing facilities. They separate materials and send it to recycling markets. The DEP maintains a list of processors and their performance throughout the years. We'll see that on our next couple of slides. They are effective at sorting wood, metal, and rigid plastics. Some are really efficient at extracting cardboard, and other materials that are very challenging for the C&D processors are bulky waste like mattresses and couches and other furniture items, electronics, which actually can be hazardous, and gypsum wallboard and ceiling tiles, which we've seen drywall and things like that. It crumbles really easily and it can contaminate some items that could have been recycled, but when they're contaminated with gypsum, it's harder to get them recycled since they're contaminated. So the array of C&D processing facilities is spread out over 2 slides because we have so many, which is great. So I understand some of these are also not in the right spots. I have to work to get this fixed, but like Western Recycling in Wilbraham should be way over west a little bit more. But this is just to show you the saturation of options that we have in Massachusetts. So this is processing facilities, and here we have transfer stations. And then here is a complete list of processors to the left of the pink line and transfer stations to the right of the pink line. And this is where DEP maintains where each of their items are either being recycled, which is in yellow, transferred, so either transloaded to another facility in gray, landfill, so beneficial use in a landfill is in brown, and disposed in a landfill with no beneficial use is in red, or orangey red there. I should say that this information is from 2017, and there's going to be a new update to this map in 2018, which should be coming out very shortly. Source separation is an option, and it is a requirement in some LEED projects. So LEED version 4 requires you to actually target 4 material streams into separate source-separated dumpsters. It's exactly how it sounds, collecting items separately. So collecting wood separately, or collecting gypsum separately, asphalt shingles separately, cardboard separately. It's only likely to be working at a scale where it makes sense, since it really requires a lot of space on site. You need to stage a whole bunch of dumpsters to then source separate the materials. We have several gypsum collection sites across Massachusetts that are sent to Pennsylvania for processing. Ceiling tiles typically go to Armstrong. Cardboard can be recycled in the C&D process, like I mentioned previously, but it can get contaminated. At the end of a project is when you tend to have a lot of cardboard anyway, so maybe that's when it makes sense on your project to actually get a cardboard dumpster delivered to divert directly to a recycler. And like I said, the big challenge for source separation is having all that space for the dumpsters. However, you don't need space for all the dumpsters at the same time, since projects are typically cyclical, and live loading is a possibility as well. I usually like to show the video of the building product ecosystems video on source separation. I think they do a really great job of showing how gypsum specifically can be source separated into small dumpsters and live loaded. So check that out. So some resources that the BMP makes reference to are general reuse information, again, though not the nonprofit reuse outlets, material brokers, architectural salvage companies, wood salvage organizations, and deconstruction contractors. So I wanted to share with you guys the C&D pilot project that RecyclingWorks and the DEP has started. We've started this pilot project where you get free technical assistance on your waste management plan. So we're assisting C&D projects with their plans, also in the field technical assistance throughout this project from start to finish. We have partnered with some great knowledgeable consultants that you get to work with, again, because it's fully funded by the Mass DEP for free. And so, yeah, if you guys have any projects that you can think of, we're currently working with a couple right now, a grocery store in Western Massachusetts, totally rebuilding a old car dealership, and we're going to be working with them. We're potentially working with some apartment complexes in the Worcester area to provide them with technical assistance. So our overall goal is to just give the people the resources that they need on the project to increase recycling and reuse opportunities. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys is something that the Mass DEP just released, actually in the last 2 weeks, was the Recycling Business Development Grant for 2019. This is a great opportunity. It's intended to help Massachusetts recyclers, recycling processors and manufacturers create sustainable markets for eligible materials. So there's a whole list of materials, but we want to focus on, in our world, gypsum board, since we've noticed a lack of infrastructure for handling this material in Massachusetts. So selected applicants will receive grants award of between $50,000 to $400,000. One of the materials is gypsum, and that's for beneficiation, processing, and recycling. And the deadline is October 4th. So if you would like to learn more about it, I can get you some information, and I would love to, assist in any way that I can to anyone who might be interested in receiving a grant like this. So I know I ran through that very fast, but I wanted to open the floor up for some questions. If I can't answer any questions, I promise I will get you the answers and do my research and help you find any information that you need. But if you need me to go back to any slides or have any questions for me, I think, Scott, we can unmute the lines and see who has any questions.
Yes, the lines are unmuted. So if anybody has any questions. Abby, I have one question on the grant. Who or what type of company would apply for that grant?
That's a very good question. At this point, any company, I'm not sure the detailed submission, portion of how that goes, like what are from what I read from the initial release of the announcement, it didn't really specify, you basically just have to have some interest in it at this point and go through the submission process. You don't need to be an existing processor or recycler or something like that. I don't think that's a stipulation, but I can get you the actual announcement that went on, if you would like.
Well, what I'll do is I'll send you folks' email addresses, and you can share that link and that information with everybody. That would be good.
I will send out the presentation and links and all the relatable information on the BMP. But that's a great question. Yeah, it's due October 4th, so some of that grant writing and processes can be pretty intense. So get started.
I go to look at projects all the time, most of which are midstream somehow, and it's amazing how much material is moved in and out of a typical project, and especially some pretty nice stuff is torn out of projects that could be repurposed.
Exactly. That's we definitely want to change the mindset of projects to think about doing the soft strips and pre-demolition cleanouts to get those materials out. Like, you know, some of the stuff that, like I said, I'm sitting at Eco Building Bargains today, and some of the stuff's beautiful. I mean, I would put it in my home, beautiful granite countertops and cabinets and things like that. And it's a shame to pay all that money, too, to have it go to a facility that might not recycle it or have other options for it. So.
Do you know of any companies that do the dismantling pre-job?
Yes, we do. I'm just taking notes here. Yeah, we make some specific references in the BMP to those pre-demo clean-out people.
Okay.
So I can locate that, or you can take a look at the BMP. It's when I send it out, it will be on there. And also, if you don't see something listed on the BMP, I'd encourage everyone to call the RecyclingWorks hotline that is posted right on the screen in front of you. And some stuff that's in our database is not in the BMP. So take a look, you know, with specific items or in search of different companies that will help you in those cleanouts, and they will do all the research for you. It's a great resource. And you can also email them as well.
Well, that was very informative. I really appreciate your time. We will.
One question. I don't want to miss this.
Go ahead. Yep.
What can reuse centers do better to facilitate more reuse? I think that's a great question from Matthew. And I think reuse centers can get the word out maybe a little bit better, like you know, advertising, and Facebook has a really impactful presence, and also be accessible when people call and, you know, ask about some items that they might have, and just be the resource for them to decide, you know, what can and cannot be donated, and the logistics and making that easy for people. When things are easy, people, you know, are more likely to do them. So, and that's why we're here to help, and so are the reuse centers. So thanks, Scott. I just didn't want to let that one go.
Yeah, that's a good question. I appreciate it. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Anybody else, chat or otherwise?
I have a question. In most circumstances, or all circumstances, so there are some. You said there are some pre-demolition removal companies that will come in to take things out, but in every other circumstance, these recycling centers will come to the site, say everything's going to be recycled is set aside, and they'll come pick it up. There's never any delivery involved.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's totally up to you. In my experience, it's 100% free. You know, the building owner, contractor, whoever, does the pre-demolition clean out, stores on site, contacts the reuse center, and they will come pick it up, almost entirely free. I haven't seen an instance where they charge, but I mean, it could happen. And yeah, that's a great option as well. You just totally let them handle it. And there's, like you saw the map, there are so many options.
Okay.
Abby, I want to thank you very much for the presentation. Everyone, we will post this, and when you see that posting, feel free to share it with anyone. We'll leave it up on the BRAGB website for probably forever. So with that, I'll conclude our webinar today. Any last comments, Abby?
No, I want to thank everyone for your time, and don't forget RecyclingWorks if you have any questions.
Great.
Let us know.
All right, thank you. Everyone have a good afternoon. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you.